Today we take a look at some serious wealth building with the Berkshire Hathaway stock. And for those of you who don't know, Berkshire Hathaway is the company of billionaire investor Warren Buffett, and it is an absolute beast when it comes to long-term gains and consistency. Now, investing in Berkshire is as close as you can get to guaranteed returns on the stock market. And full disclosure, I do own Berkshire Hathaway stock and I'll be adding more to my portfolio during the year. So let's take a look at why Berkshire is a must-have for every serious investor. Berkshire Hathaway stock performance. In order to understand how safe and guaranteed your money is with Berkshire Hathaway, we only have to look at Warren Buffett's track record over the years and you'll find some truly amazing results. First up is the overall performance during the past 56 years. If you would have invested just $1,000 with Buffett in 1964, your money would be worth around $28 million today. Compare that to the S&P 500 over the same time period and your money would only be worth $227,000. So investing with Berkshire Hathaway instead of the S&P 500 would have given you well over 100 times your capital to retire with. But the amazing part is not how often Warren Buffett beat the S&P, but by how much he did. In 1985, for instance, Buffett managed to achieve around 94% gains versus the S&P 500 that only did around 26%. Now I say only, but the 26% is of course an amazing result in itself. I would happily take 26% every year, however when comparing it to Buffett's return, it seems small. And if you think that Warren Buffett was just lucky that 1 year, think again. Berkshire Hathaway managed to hit multiple insane levels of capital growth over the years, around 59% in 1988, 85% in 1989, followed by a hot streak of 36, 30 and 39% from 1991 until 1993. Another high-level gain of 57% in 1995 and 52% in 1998. So this clearly shows that Berkshire Hathaway knows how to make money when there are opportunities in the market. Now these huge gains are nice, but when you want to grow your wealth, you also want guarantees that when the market drops, you do not lose all your previous gains and you want to make sure that your capital is in safe hands. Berkshire Hathaway proved this during the bursting of the Dotcom Bubble and the major recession that followed. While the Nasdaq absolutely collapsed, losing 39% in 2000, 21% in 2001, and 32% in 2002, the S&P did slightly better by losing less. This resulted in the S&P losing 10% in 2000, 13% in 2001, and 23% in 2002. Berkshire Hathaway beat both of these indexes in a phenomenal fashion by achieving a 27% gain in 2000, gaining 6% in 2001, and only losing 4% in 2002. This proves the robustness of the Berkshire Hathaway stock when the company has to navigate prolonged periods of weak financial markets. Before we continue, please like and subscribe to the channel for more finance and banking information. Now, if you are a critic of the stock, you could say that these massive gains are a thing of the past and that in recent years Berkshire has not achieved 50 to 80% returns. And you would be right to do so. Times have changed. We no longer have 10 to 12% interest rates on savings accounts and global competition has made it harder for companies to dominate the market. However, Berkshire Hathaway still knows how to turn market opportunities into large gains, and more importantly, they know how to protect your capital while doing so. If we look at more recent performance, for instance that of the past 15 years, we see that Berkshire Hathaway has indeed gained less than during the glory days and the stock is now closer to the S&P 500. However, when we compound the gains for the past 15 years, we see that Berkshire Hathaway easily quadruples your money with a 4.4 factor, while the S&P 500 hits a 2.8 multiplier. So yes, not as strong as it used to be, but still a very good result overall. Now the main reason why it seems that Buffett has been, quote, losing his edge, unquote, is because he does not invest in new age type companies. Buffett has stated many times that he mainly invests in companies he understands. These tend to be strong, blue chip companies that are undervalued. Pure logic dictates that as you buy more and more of these traditional and huge companies, you simply run out of companies to buy, and this makes it impossible to sustain that level of growth that you've had in the past. This is also something that Buffett predicted and is a natural result of a more conservative approach to investing. Berkshire Hathaway has become so large that it is now the S&P 500 itself. This makes it very difficult to outperform the thing that you've basically become. Investment strategy with Berkshire stock. So now that we know the performance of Berkshire Hathaway and what the stock is, how do we incorporate the stock in an investment strategy? Well, the first thing to do is look at the drawbacks of Berkshire to know what your limitations are. Since the company tends to avoid high growth stocks in very new and undefined businesses, it misses out on a lot of that upward momentum. By avoiding these stocks, it loses ground to the S&P 500, and this makes beating the S&P more difficult. Now the upside to this is that you have little exposure to the very volatile nature of these stocks, which can also turn against you. We are already seeing some concerning moves in the tech sector that could indicate a massive correction, and with Berkshire you have little to worry about. The main point with investing in Berkshire Hathaway is to simply buy and forget. You can put a large portion of your portfolio in the company's stock and not even look at it for the next 5 years. You are truly investing in long-term growth of your capital, which makes this an excellent wealth building stock that you can rely on for many years. You will most likely not have exposure to the latest tech startups that can shoot up very quickly, but if you want that, you can add these individually to your portfolio for some extra growth and expose yourself to more risky stock. This was the Berkshire Hathaway stock overview. Please like and subscribe to the channel for more finance and banking information.